progression of this race. We've seen very different races, of course, over the last couple of days, with some really exciting time trials earlier on in the week. And, you know, this race will be decided by, you know, the riders on the road.
Well, at the moment, Schrempf is out alone. She's going to start to feel it being on your own, but she's still, the pace that she is putting into this day is still a magnificent one, and she holds around about 3 minutes of a margin. In fact, it's getting closer to 3 minutes than it has been throughout. And, well, a little bit of focus coming here. Italy have kept themselves safe, also first to the feed zone as well. But right now, I'm just looking through this pack and assuming where our favoured status is going to come from. There are some teams with big numbers that are very much focused on one rider. For Spain, that rider is Mavi Garcia. She was 10th in Glasgow. There is, however, you get this within all teams, there's always something of a dark horse, and I'd probably call that Mireia Benito for Spain. And they must have some belief after the junior race, which was absolutely magnificent. Some great performances there. But Spain, do you know, when you get success within a team, you know this from the Olympics, Brian, it fires absolutely everybody up, doesn't it? Changes the mood.
Yeah, of course it does. You know, it doesn't matter where it happens within the team. And you know, the medal table so far in this race, well, or these events, the Netherlands are in 2 golds, 1 silver, 1 bronze. Great Britain on 2 golds, France on 1 gold, 2 silvers, 1 bronze. So that's your top 3. So Spain a little bit below that. But yeah, there are a lot of teams here with strengths, but you have to look at last year's World Championships in Switzerland and Zurich, where it was another kind of difficult course. Okay, we've got a few more metres of elevation, a harder task for everybody. But looking at the American team that is here, maybe not the biggest team with 2 riders, Ruth Edwards and Chloe Dygard, but Chloe Dygard doing, you know, a good time trial, but let's see what she can do here. 2nd last year in a sprint finish, but this is going to be a totally different race today.
Certainly is. There's only as you can see, we're just getting a countdown to the completion of this climb. Still just over 100 meters to go, less than that now, eating into it. But it's those a rider who is up front, Schrempf, at the moment. You know, when you look at the front of the pack, it just, especially on some of the turns, of course, but it's getting more defined with every single lap. And I think those riders without support riders, and without indeed any kind of backup, including Schrempf, of course, it's going to get more and more wearing. How much protection can a team offer you, Brian, on a course such as this, with so many slow sections within it?
I think it's very difficult. It seems to be kind of twisting and turning the whole way around this course. These 2 climbs come in quick succession. I think the only respite you get is just after the finishing line, where you get a little bit of a kind of downhill before we head out towards kind of golf course. But these laps come up very, very quickly. We're talking about going round here for the women 23, 24 minutes. And that's only going to get faster as this race starts to ramp up. Like many of the races that we've already had in this course, it's not about the action at the front. All the action seems to be the rear of the peloton. That door is open on every climb, especially this climb, it's open, and riders are getting distanced all the time. So this is going to get smaller and smaller, this group. The last time round, there was 72 riders in the main peloton, and come the last lap, there could only be maybe 20, 30 riders left.
The struggles are starting to be magnified here, as you can see. Afghanistan, Yıldız Hashimi bravely pushing on the pedals here, but looks like the gate will await. See it back in, one of which was Rwanda's IREBERE. Just looked like she was struggling a little bit more. There she is, actually, IREBERE. The Rwandan champion, just in good company, though. That's Sonara Grove also being found out, perhaps just a little bit on... do you know what? Having your plastering plates as clappers, I'd never even thought of it, but what a great idea. Next time I do some plastering in my kitchen, I don't know, I need to get myself a recording of some of the magnificent music that we've got at the side of the road here. Proper festival this is. No shame in struggling, Brian. The pace has been high.
Definitely, and it's kept consistently high as well. Good to see that so many different nations' flags at the side of the road. Okay, predominantly Rwandan flags, but everybody makes the pilgrimage almost, you know, every year to the World Championships, and it's great to see.
Certainly is. Average pace for this women's elite race so far, 35.3 kilometres per hour. I think that's going to nudge up further towards closer towards the 40, but we are now approaching about quarter done, I guess you might say. 75% of the race still remaining, possibly a little bit less than that, maybe 70%, but nonetheless. Looking at the trees, we had kind of a breeze really earlier on, 11 kilometres per hour. It seems to have dissipated. You're getting some venting between the buildings here, which keeps the flags proud upon their staffs. But right now, it's a question of just setting yourself a rhythm, getting yourself into a decent place for later on, and start to look a little bit twitchy. Germany now moving to the front. They have Lana Lippert, who was just missed out on the medals last year and indeed 2 years prior, finishing fourth on a couple of occasions. Antonia Niedermeyer is possibly the one to watch. She was 18th in Glasgow, but has actually vaulted in terms of her performances recently. And breakaway plans for Francesca Koch. And I think that is Francesca at the front, if indeed she wants to go and mark herself out. And the reason is the gap has actually tumbled. It was up to 3 minutes. It's now been trimmed back down just a little bit. Still counting up, but we'll see. I think it's probably nearer to the 2 minute mark. We're going to find out once indeed roll through, but this will be our definitive measure for you in a short while. A little bit of pickup to be dealt with before we get to that line. The speed cams haven't tripped over just yet. Here is that final little ramplet. This is the zone of cruelty, Brian, right at the very end.
Yes, it's a difficult climb because both climbs are at the steepest at the bottom of the climb, and of course the cobble climb, very significant. You swing left, you see the kilometre to go. It eases a little bit, and this is a real nasty ride up towards the finishing line, and you know this could be the crucial point come the end. Let's see, but I think there's a lot of hard racing yet to be done in this race, and this is why we're seeing this relatively. It does look easy pace, but say that to the riders that are getting distance at the back.
Very much so. This is that final little sequence of rises that we get to, which will bring us to the line. Actually, the gap is still a broad one. I thought we'd be closer to the 2 minute mark, but it sweated out just a little bit. It was around about 3 minutes. There's the final little peak that they've got to deal with, isn't it? They come up over the top. A lot of careful monitoring going on. Good to see Colombia, of course, also getting animated here, a team that travel well. They have Paula Patino and Dana Penuela. And here we go. It is still holding as a margin. 3:49 may well have shed just a handful of seconds, really, Schrempf. So still doing a good job and still no appetite to kind of close down that gap. Problem is, Brian, if you do close the gap, then all hell's going to break loose again potentially, and everyone is cagey and wary of that, wanting to preserve themselves.
Yeah, exactly that, and it was the Colombian Penuela that led the peloton through that time, and I can tell you that you know, still in this group we have got still a little bit more than we had the last time. We have got 80 riders. 79 taking away the Austrian in front, so 79, 72 the last time, so pace slowed a little bit, allowed a few more riders to get back that were distanced the previous time, but still a significant amount of riders, and it's just a game of patience today.
L'appia catazzolero ni les verli.
This is the Akagera National Park, where you can actually see water buffalo and I'm not sure hippos. I don't think they're in this part of the world, but there you are. They're normally river beasts. But yeah, I think it's actually, as I say it, just appearing there. It may well be entirely wrong. In fact, I'm going to look it up in a few moments. By the way, hippopotamus, take care, because they are vicious creatures. They might look cuddly and friendly because they've got a bit of a smiley look to themselves, but oh no, apparently the most dangerous of all creatures, even more so than crocodiles and lions, so be careful. Yeah, don't poke a hippo, that's all I'm saying to you. 117 kilometres. Brian, we've nearly dealt with 50 Ks of this course, and already it's had a big impact on some.
Yeah, you can see that Sarah Martin just calling for bottles. There's a couple of feed stations on the course today, but it's so important to drink as much as you can. Of course, we see many of these athletes pouring water in themselves as well to try and keep cool. Normally, it's altitude that it kind of suppresses your appetite at this level. So you have to remind yourself to take your nutrition, your gels, your bars, or whatever you've got in your pockets, because all you're looking at when it's warm and humid like this, all you're looking at is drinking cold energy drinks or water, pouring water over yourself, trying to keep cool. But you got to remember you need energy. This race is over 11 laps. It's a long way around, and if you get any one bit wrong, you will pay for it come the end.
Well, there's a whole panoply of different nations represented here, and some of which, I've got to say, have got the absolute grooviest kits. I'm loving Lilbeth Cachon of Venezuela's kit here. So much so, I'm actually thinking about heading down to the jersey sellers here and asking if they've got a treble XL. And I'm also wondering if that will be big enough. We should wait and see. I'll let you know. Australia, strong team with Brodie Chapman and Amanda Spratt. I haven't asked you who your favourite status is today.
Yeah, for sure. If I'm here, it's because I want to win. But I mean, we want to win as a team also because we are super strong as a team. And but yeah, after it's only good pressure because I didn't expect to do this season. So now it's only like a bonus, and I will give my best. And if it's enough, it's enough. It's not the end of the world.
You like the course?
I really like the course. I didn't know what to expect, to be honest, but I like it. I think it's gonna be hard, and we'll have to be patient because at the beginning maybe it's like kind of easy, but at the end we have quite a lot of kilometers, so I think we need to be patient and to just make the race hard at the end.
What an amazing story it will be. She took her win in Ponferrada, and it will be an 11-year gap if she comes through, Brian. But she's one of your handful to watch, isn't she, today?
Yeah, it's not hard. Tour de France champion, what she did.
And Paris-Roubaix.
Yeah, it's not hard to determine who are the favourites in this race, and I think the top three for me is definitely Pauline Prevot, Demi Vollering, who is without a world title, and over the last 2 or 3 years Demi Vollering has been absolutely amazing. And then Lisa Longo Borghini as well. She's not won the World Championships either for Italy, and I think all three teams, and they are the three teams with the most riders here, the Netherlands, Italy and France, and I think that those three riders are significant. Longo Borghini is really, really strong rider, and I think this course really suits her. But she can't come to the finish with some riders. And then you've got Katrina Nieuwendomo-Finney, who's a very good climber, won the Tour de France last year. But I think that the favourite for me today is Pauline Ferrand-Prévot.
I would love it to be the case. She's actually got good backup here. Cédrine Guerbeol, good time trialist, as you well know, and Juliette Labousse as well, who can climb. So she's got good protection. And here we go. Suddenly it's kicking off, and as if Brian said, well, the favourites are, and all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. Said that some of these fast approaches to the twists and turns, this will be a good little moment to test and probe those around you, and it doesn't work out for everybody. That was Vazoi of Greece that just found herself at the side of the road. This is testing, and as soon as we get the rain as well, it adds into something. We've got damp sections of the course. A thrown chain is not what you want. She puts it back together herself rather quickly, but all action at the front, Brian. All of a sudden, as soon as we talk about favourites, they an impact.
It wasn't really a surprise there, because we saw another athlete there, Hao from China, with an average pace of just over 37 kilometres an hour. For some, yeah, it's a hard course, a couple of hard climbs on the course, but it just wasn't fast enough. And so, we're starting to see a few of the stronger nations coming to the front and starting to make it, a little bit more difficult. Of course, Italy have been prominent towards the front. We saw that the Dutch in the orange were getting involved. So that's all it needs. One categorized to spark things off, and I think we're starting to see the race warm up a little bit now.
Well, she was road race champion in 2024. Didn't repeat that feat. Just got edge this time by, but a good time trialist as well, Xiao Shang, who has just gone off and up the road. In the mixed time trial, she finished here in 9th place. The individual didn't really quite go her way, maybe didn't like the course in that regard on a time trial bike. Well, right now she's on a road bike and she's thriving by the looks of things, and it was, as Brian said, it's the catalyst that actually has lit a firework here. Van Orooy, the 23-year-old, brought here as a big support rider, but also to mark out moves, and was told to get off and put that fire out. Meanwhile, suddenly the impact has been reflected further back down the order, I'm afraid, and some are just starting to struggle. You're going to see more and more of that the deeper we get into this. But nonetheless, suddenly a wake-up for everybody. It's just what we needed, to be honest. We were hovering around 34 kilometres an hour. Suddenly that average has absolutely kicked up. We're going to be finishing, I reckon, just shy of 40 kilometres per hour, possibly closer to it, with still 112 kilometres to go. But it's accounted for, well, about 18 seconds of the gap that's still being held by this rider. But it shows how wary everyone is that a breakaway, they've got to mark it, because if it's of any strength whatsoever, then it could prove decisive. And you can see they're just regathering themselves as they just come by the Visit Rwanda sign next to the practice golf course here, and just getting herself back on. Our friend from Ethiopia here, it's Reda. Well, good African representation throughout all of the racing here, and getting some good results as well, Brian, in these championships.
Yeah, they have, a little bit of a historical performance this morning in the junior women's event. But yeah, it was Femke de Vries of the Netherlands that kind of kicked things off a little bit there. And then we had, a few other Hittenhopers, Van Anrooy as well. So it seems like the Dutch want this a little bit more animated.
Yeah, it would serve them if this was attritional. Van der Breggen and Vollering could actually hide themselves just a little bit. They've got other cards to play as well. But yeah, if you do have strength in depth, and more than that, belief, Brian, you can really start to issue a few hammer blows to teams that you perceive that really you could do with thinning out.
Yeah, Anna van der Breggen is the most successful of the riders in this race. She's got 2 golds in the past, 2 silvers. She took a couple of years out and has now come back into her sport. And to have that sort of experience in the race, I really do think that gives them the kind of slight edge. Of course, the French will have another thing to say about that. And quite interestingly, that Pauline Ferrand-Prévot rides for a Dutch team in Visma Leasebike. But this is about our national team, France, and like you say, they've got a strong team here. They want success and they can have it. But I think for the Netherlands and the Dutch, they have got, like they always have, you know, a win coming from different quarters instead of just that one rider.
Big climb this, 14% right at the very beginning. There's actually sections of it which actually are 18%, would you believe? But yeah, as the averages are taken over reaches of 100 metres and more. So yeah, still Carina Schrempf is out there with 2 minutes and 40. There's no panic to wind her in, but I think there is a desire to change the complexion of the day. Average pace has just fallen back down again to 36.5, but I think we're going to be finishing around about 40 because this naturally will actually have a bit more pace about it. There is a professional cruising pace, Brian, that is more comfortable as we just look in the pits area. And indeed, as you can see, time to gather and ponder. And it looks like the entire team here of Kenya are going to shoot the breeze and indeed discuss how the race went today for them. Very much part of proceedings, part of the celebration of cycling, but their day has drawn to a close, Brian.
Yeah, it is, unfortunately. Good to see them here, of course. Yeah. And, you know, their first opportunity ever and to ride, you know, in their own continent. First time that they were here with the World Championships. But, you know, the difference between the top riders in the world and some of the smaller nations is a huge gulf. And, you know, with 50 World Tour riders here and 29 riders, not even at third division, not even at continental level. Some of the riders barely race at all, barely go outside their own country. So to be here representing their nation and, you know, trying to do their best in the World Championships is good enough for me.
Here's the chatter you can see. Meanwhile, if you want a chat, slice of cake and a cup of tea, why don't you check out Rwandan tea? It's very rich. So, settlement at the moment. And the battle goes on just to stay in touch. This is Reda from Ethiopia. As you can see, national champion of Ethiopia, having stayed with it. Ethiopia, Eritrea, great cycling hubs within the continent, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, especially Eritrea. I've been quite fortunate to work with some of the African nations, and Eritrea is one of the kind of biggest nations, as well as kind of South Africa, always producing some very good riders, and I'm hoping, you know, the UCI have been trying to globalise cycling for many years. This, of course, is the first time that the World Championships have been in Africa, but I hope this does inspire so many of these kind of smaller nations to try and you know, strengthen their chances within the world of cycling.
Well, all of a sudden, things getting very lively. Femke de Vries, who's actually been a good track rider as well in her time, just drawing out a little bit of a response. I think this is ultimately to get fed easily, take on the bottles that you need. Can't really grab a musette when you've got such a tight course as this. And we pondered the Akagera National Park with the big five. I was very surprised to see that one of the big five is water buffalo. There you go. And there they are, the water buffalo. That's where you get your It's where you get your mozzarella from. They have, of course, got elephants who, you know, don't get too close to them, but, yeah, lovely beasts nonetheless, quietly dominating, I think you might say. The lions, who are declared as kings of the jungle, something to say about that. And the baboons, you know what baboons love, Brian? They love a grape. Don't ever open a box of grapes near a baboon. You know, you might not only just lose your grapes, let me tell you that much. And the hippos. How could I have even thought, yeah, get off. See what I mean? Grumpy. Sort of the jungle equivalent of Brian Smith. Meanwhile, the lions do stay clear, and the white rhino, thank goodness.
And they sleep in the day, not always at night.
There you go. There you go. You got to get your prowling energy together, Brian.
Well, there's a few on the prowl in this race, and already we've got, you know, De Vries, and De Vries is no slouch. That shows you the strength and depth of the Dutch team. 20th in the Tour de France recently, second overall in the Tour Cycliste Feminine International de Ardèche. You know, quite a difficult race. So Femke De Vries, not for the first time she's been on the attack. What she's trying to do is animate this race. It was all kind of blocked off at the front. So the Dutch team have decided that they want to kind of animate it. They don't want to kind of maybe set up a counter-attack. What they're trying to do is, with the Femke, is make it difficult, inspire others. I've been in similar situations myself in races. It's not about, you know, just riding at the front or, you're trying to kind of chase down the Austrian rider at the front. It's about trying to provoke others. That catalyst. When De Vries went on the attack, others start to attack. But just as soon as we say this, it can all locks down again. So that catalyst, the Dutch are trying to get the others to start to race as well.
And look who's come up to the front as well. A team with great wisdom on board. Australia. Brodie Chapman, Loretta Hansen, Xander Manley. We have Ruby Rose McGannon, and of course Amanda Spratt as well. They don't want to miss out.
I think she's saying hello to her family, and I think this is one of the main reasons why she's doing this. An opportunity.
Look at smiling.
World Championships. You know, this race is going out worldwide, and it looks as if she's loving it. Obviously, she's tiring because she's been out there for some considerable time now. But it's either you come to the World Championships and just try and get round, or you make a name for it yourself, and that's what the Austrian is doing.
Whoa, this is one of those turns I was telling you about. Looks like we've got a little bit of moisture down there as well upon the road. I don't know whether that was a traffic management island that they've ground out for the World Championships. Sometimes that happens. So somebody says, oh, nice bit of cobblage here in the middle, and everybody goes, yeah, that looks lovely, and then all of a sudden you think, they've got a bike race to get through here. Here is the Kimi Harura. This is that cobbled section that you've got to deal with, and you have to fully invest. And they're starting to do so. And some of those riders who find themselves isolated and alone, no teammates around them, are now getting into position. Sweden here with Caroline Anderson, just making sure that she's on the front row. She's on her own. Blanka Vas of Hungary, only 23 years of age, super versatile, and I think one of the big sort of outsiders to shine brightly today. Haven't seen hide nor hair of her, which makes me worry just a little bit, but I'm peeling my eyes for number 72 to see indeed if I can find her. But yeah, Vas is somebody you've got to watch out for. I've watched her at junior level on track, uphill and down dale, and yeah, I think as a versatile rider, and that's where you've got to look if you're looking for somebody who's perhaps just waiting in the wings to impose themselves ever so slightly. Let's wait and see. Meanwhile, the attrition rate goes on. We saw Reda struggling a little bit earlier on, and she still is, I'm afraid, just off the back of neutral service here. She's in good company, though. There were plenty here that this is the individual neutral athlete, which is Frolova. Also just struggling a little bit. Looks like she needs to increase her seat stem, to be honest. Whatever you're comfortable with, Brian, and today comfort is hard to find.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's an ever-changing circuit. You know, there's a couple of quick descents, sweeping corners. You know, it's got everything. You know, the cobbles here, 2 short and sharp climbs as well. So, you know, everything in this World Championship. And I think so far we can say that the strongest rider has won every race.
Absolutely. And sometimes the bravest, the men's juniors, that was phenomenal, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I think he was the strongest in the end as well. You know, he took his opportunity, the Brits, and, you know, took a historical, you know, world title. Never been done before by any other Brit.
Just as I'm searching for Hungary, there she is, number 72. They've got a new livery, and it almost looks like one of Brian's famous sort of graded sunglasses, going from green, from red through to green there. Yeah, I mean, he's got a few style tips for you. That's Brian Smith, if you're ever interested. We'll take some of your questions a little bit later on, I'm certain, but this looks like it is livening up. And it's mob-handed at the front because everyone's expecting action. Even if it's not happening, Brian, there's a tension which is now washing over the pack.
Yeah, the Dutch were trying to provoke something. Yep. It's come to nothing. But I don't think they'll sit back for too long.
Nope.
I think they'll try again.
What about the Swiss? Sending, indeed, a strongish selection as well. They've got Elise Chabet, top 10, certainly capable of doing exactly that. In fact, she's been top 10 the last 2 occasions in the Worlds. So Chabet, not too shabby. We've got Marlon Reusser as well. Time trials, great to have somebody like that who can slingshot you into action. Naomi Rög, Yasmin Lechty, and indeed Janina Kaluri as well. So yeah, Chabet likes short, steep climbs. Guess what we've got here? Exactly that. So the Swiss Miss, as they are occasionally known, just up on the front line. Meanwhile, still out there is Karina Schrempf, and the rhythm of welcome continues. Seven laps to go. We're eating into this, Brian.
Yeah, we're getting there, slowly but surely. It's not, you know, the fastest time schedule so far for this race, but I'm pretty sure that so far, you know, there's a lot of strong legs still left in this main group. You know, it's a case of just, you know, blocking everything out. We can say that, you know, the Dutch want it a little bit harder, but they're not going to take it on themselves. We saw in the under 23 men's race that the Belgians took it on, and they were quite happy taking it on, but they never came up trumps in the end. But I don't think the Dutch want to just ride on the front. They want to instigate something, and it hasn't happened. Nobody wants to play with the Dutch at the moment.
No, they don't. And Belgium don't seem to want to play the game at all. They're sort of middle at the back at the moment, but there's only 3 of them, despite the fact they had the right to turn up here with 8. Defending champion is not part of proceedings, but Julia van der Veld is a good climber, actually, good baroudeur, good counter-attacker, really. But Van Pechtenbecker, Margot, great name, my daughter's name. Yeah, she has suddenly produced some stunning form, actually, after finishing only, well, in the 80s, I think, last time by, the last championships, or indeed, that was her best performance, I think, as we just dwell on the Beehive, which is the convention centre here. Very unconventional for a convention centre. They also have Mareka Meert as well, but it is down to the Netherlands. Some others just starting to display their hope. Poland, Brian, I always describe them as a team that must never be underestimated. And Nieuwedoma, who, again, somebody who translates from the track to the road very, very successfully. She took bronze in 2021, and I think this course absolutely suits her. It also, dare I say it, suits the Polish attitude, which is to upset the apple cart, go for it, be part of our thoughts.
Absolutely, Nieuwedoma, Finny, definitely. Tour de France last year and pretty much, you know, saved the yellow jersey from Demi Vollering in Alpe d'Huez last year, and definitely a course that would suit her. And she's been looked after. She's the second of the Polish riders towards the front now, and yeah, definitely if there's a championship course that suits her, then Nieuwendomer Fini is definitely one of those.
Well, they've also got Marta Lach, who's very experienced. Perettico, I beg your pardon, is the support rider. Carolina, I'll get a name right in a moment. Perettico, there we are. I got there in the end. The Kitco. Want a Kit Kat? Other, indeed, snacks are available, and they are trying to get sustenance here. And look at the queue, Brian. They're almost coming to a standstill. Such is the desperation for, indeed, fluids and sustenance.
Well, just look at the gaps in the group now, and it's always a problem. And normally you would get your teammates to grab your bottles and things like that, so you don't get involved with that. You go to the left, get your teammates to get your bottles. But for some, they don't have too many teammates, so everybody trying to grab bottles. I said how important it is to keep hydrated, and this, of course, in the humidity and up at this altitude and the heat, you have to. But you miss a feat, you've got, we've talked about this before, where you've been at World Championships, and even Sean Kelly, was asking me, saw me take a bottle and was asking me, for some of that water. It's so important, but there's a lot of hidden dangers around these feed stations.
Well, not least giving Sean Kelly a drink.
Yeah, because he finished the bottle almost.
Gave it back to Brian with a couple of teaspoons left in it.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the Peloton, Brian.
He was riding for Ireland, I was riding for Great Britain.
Yeah. Never made that mistake again, did he?
No.
To be honest, he's bought you a few drinks in the past.
He has, yeah.
To make up for it.
Not of the water type.
Meanwhile, the gap at 2 minutes and 50, holding for Kirina Schrempf. Meanwhile, the party goes on. Italy staying locked and loaded. And as you can see, Trinidad and Tobago. Tanya Campbell, I've been very impressed with her, actually. She's kept herself very much up towards the front. She's very much a looming figure. A giant, it seems, here. That's no great respect to a course like this of, indeed, that kind of body frame. But if you've got the power, then you can pour it on, take your respite where you need it within a course, and indeed impose yourself when you need to. This is Rayana Marcus back to the car. A little bit of a chit-chat. No radios here, so good to get.
Is that Lawrence Tendam?
I think it might have been, yeah.
Riding gravel, very good ex-professional rider. Does look like him, but 26 minutes that lap there, the slowest that they've gone. So I think that's why we're starting to see the Dutch trying to create something just a little bit too easy for them.
Well, shall we hear from Demi Vollering? Bronze in the time trial. Starting off today as one of Brian's golden picks, and indeed Demi Vollering could well be doing a job for us here today. Let's find out.
Well, it's hard to say, because also all the other races who take place so far, you see every race is really like a different outcome. We saw solo, we saw today, this morning, quite a big group going to the finish line, so I think everything can happen.
How are the legs?
I hope good. It's always, you never know until the start went, and after 2 laps you think like, okay, yeah, now I know, but no, I don't know yet.
And then it's a question of being patient?
Yes, I think, yeah.
Well, they say patience is a virtue, but more than anything, on a course like this, timing is what you need. Get that right, and it's going to go very right for you. In the absence of radios, the junior race was a good indicator to us, actually. Clearly, the Belgian team, for example, were given some strict instructions, and they stuck to them. You've got to be a bit fluid in your approach, Brian, because ultimately, the decisions you make get magnified in their importance the closer we get to the finish line. And you can get it wrong here. You can find yourself out of position and out of contention.
Yeah, ultimately it's about you physically, how you adapt to the conditions. This is a one-day hit-out race, and you go through so many feelings and emotions. At this stage, you start to think, you start to kind of doubt yourself a little bit, and that's where you have to have the confidence, and you have to have good management in the car, making sure that, you know, everything's right. And of course, when you think maybe I'm not feeling good, you might feel good towards the end. You go through so much in a race of this, because you put that importance on yourself. This is the World Championship. This is not just a one-day race. It's the World Championships. The rainbow bands are up for someone at the end of this race today, and you keep on having to remind yourself, keep the gears down, save energy, you know, eat, drink. There's a lot going on, although we seem to be seeing that these riders just going round lap after lap, 25, 26, you know, 34, 35 kilometres an hour. Not overly difficult for the moment anyway. So I think the key from every interview that we've had, and Vollering was right there, there's no formula to how these races are run out. We've seen different races, how they've unfolded. As you say, the junior race 36 kilometres ago, solo efforts, and then this morning in the junior women's race, it was a group coming to the end, and very, very different. And of course, a lot of these pro athletes are looking at these races, trying to work out their strategy, of course. But ultimately, Carlton, this is going to come down, and some races are not like that. Some races you can win tactically. You can win with, you know, using your own tactics, using your brain. This ultimately comes down to whether you get the legs or not. Who is the strongest rider in the race will win this race today.
Absolutely. And when indeed that spotlight gets turned on, basically the action moment, it's hard to predict. And how important do you think it is, Brian, that there's a lack of radios here? That's a great leveler, because some teams, of course, they wouldn't even be able to afford that sort of equipment. But that definitive coaching, if you like, that comes in through the earpiece, you've got to go back to the car if you want to have any of that. And that will become a paucity later on, especially as the pace picks up. And the pace you're looking at right now, we're going to be seeing a little bit more of. But they've got to think for themselves, Brian. Sometimes you can do that by committee if you have teammates around you, but this is about strategizing for yourself ultimately, isn't it?
You've already got a plan, and I can mention the Beijing Olympic road race, where I think the Dutch got it wrong with the Austrian winning that one, and I think there is a blackboard at the front of the race. Is having that plan beforehand in the team, and we saw Marcus going back to the car and speaking to the Dutch manager. I don't think anything changes too much. Of course, you talk about all these scenarios, Carlton, you have to remember these scenarios. One rider in front at almost 3 minutes is not going to change how you race. It does look as if the Dutch team want to make it a little bit harder. I've already put a couple of tentative attacks in to try and spark others. Others are just going to sit and wait. So I don't think the radials are going to have a huge amount of difference. And of course, we've seen this in the Dutch team in the past as well, Carlton. And we've seen it even at the highest level in World Championships, especially with Spain and, you know, Italy and things like that. Do you want to work with that captain or this captain? Who is the captain? We've seen splits in the camp. So that's why it's important, because a lot of these riders, they're probably riding together for the first time this year. You know, they don't ride national team races, and of course they ride for their trade teams, and you know that's the difference. You have to come to a World Championships with riders from different teams, rivals all year long, and put them together for one day to try and win the world title.
Well, opinions, of course, one thing about opinions is that they vary. And you're absolutely right, Brian. I remember the internal arguments within the Belgian team in particular. Remco Evenepoel not happy at all about his declared support role. The Kigali Golf. Oh, there is one happy person. Got handed a bidon, but you can hear that party going on right now. Schrempf just handing over a bottle. Meanwhile, that's a great shot, isn't it? Just next to this high lake that we're dealing with. You see the pace that they are garnering on this descent. Back to the head of proceedings, and indeed, as you can see, we've got a nice little highway section to deal with right now. I must say the roads have been absolutely impeccable. Not a hint of any debris, or indeed, I mean, when you look at some of the roads that we actually deal with and have played with in World Championships in the past, this is like a magic carpet almost, Brian.
Yeah, a lot of the riders have been saying how impeccable the circuit is. Smooth roads, good roads. I dare to think what they would be like in the rain, and I hope that stays off. But one thing is for sure, although it's not the fastest of laps, but Karina Schrempf is really enjoying herself in these World Championships.
And good for her as well. She went off early and she's still holding a margin. It's been pretty much unchanged actually throughout. I think we've got some weather coming in. There was a suggestion of some damp on the circuit, and we are expecting a little bit more. See the tree line here just following the river, which provides the irrigation for all the tea and rice in these parts. Tea on the hills, rice in the valleys.
There is coffee here as well.
I know. And chocolate. There we are. How would we manage without that? Meanwhile, this is a big pinch point on the circuit. This is high pace to get into this corner, Brian. It might be a factor.
Yeah, both entries to the climb's significant. You see the Italians, well, they've got a lot of their team towards the front here in the Azzurri blue.
Almost permanently. They've been up there monitoring.
Yeah, I think the most consistent team that have been towards the front, Spain, now reacting to this one. And, we're also seeing the Dutch, no real surprise there, is there? Germans getting involved. So, yeah, I just think it's a little bit slow for some nations, and they want to try and kind of pick up the pace and go racing.
Well, we got it now. The rhythm being beaten out at the side of the road and kind of thins down. As soon as your move gets marked out, sometimes you can just back into it, and sometimes, well, some fireworks, they don't hit the outer atmosphere. Just how important is the altitude that we're dealing with here, Brian? It has a cumulative effect through a run such as this. They'll feel like they've been on an altitude training camp when they finished.
Yeah, it affects people differently, and it's all about your own preparation. Some doing altitude training camps, others not, and of course the air is that little bit finer. For one, I didn't really kind of sleep too well at altitude, and talking to a lot of kind of different riders, they're exactly the same. Of course there is benefits, but some people adapt to it better than others, and it's as simple as that.
Yeah, I find if I have even a modest oxygen debt, I start to feel really uncomfortable. Even a stuffy restaurant, I have to leave, Brian, and for that very reason. And the way that you metabolize oxygen as well, it varies. It's the nature of humans. Of course, some will be from areas of the planet which, of course, thrive at altitude. Most notably the Colombians. Some Colombians live almost naturally at a very, very high level, which affects their blood cell count and how you actually deal with a lack of oxygen. It's something that's often sought out by elite athletes, isn't it? Thin air, essentially.
Yeah, it's all in the preparation. Some athletes have, you know, altitude tents at home, so you know you've got the balance that you don't have to be away, because it's so important sometimes that, you know, to be home with family. There's a lot of sacrifices made in cycling, and you know, a lot of teams were going over to Tenerife and going to the kind of altitude training camps, and it's boring, monotonous. You know, you're either eating, sleeping, or training, and it's as simple as that. And you know, a lot of, you know, even riders that I've worked with in the past, even talking to them about joining the teams that I've been involved with, a couple of them have asked that, you know, to stay at home. They don't want to do these training camps because, okay, you get adapted to the conditions a little bit better, but it's the mentality as well. If there's no point sending a rider to an altitude training camp if he's not going to be super motivated out the other side, if he's going to be a little bit kind of down and, you know, missing home comforts and things like that. And believe me, that strides through the whole peloton. So it's about getting that balance right. It's not just about the physical side, it's about the mental side as well.
There we are. Just looking at Marlon Reusser. Brilliant time trials, as you well know, from these championships. We're avoiding giving you too many results of previous races because we're focusing on today, but also just in case you want to go and catch up with the action, indeed that is available to you. Great to have your company here, and great to see this fabulous festival. Well, the sun's decided to come and join us. We've had some clouds rolling in, but it's been a bright start, I think you might say, for Karina Schrempf. She is off and up the road, and with 92 and a little bit more kilometres remaining, she has an advantage of 2 minutes, just around about the 2.5 minute mark. We're playing here in Kigali, and this is the first ever World Championships on the African continent, and it is wonderful to see. The Côte de Kimihurura is this cobbled climb that will be of magnified importance the deeper we get into this race, because the percentages that we're dealing with made all the more difficult to bear because of the uneven surface. Some of those who get their gear changes wrong on the approach to this have thrown change, which is not happy. Schrempf is happy, delighted to be up here. Occasionally the cameras, she's given a look-see to her family. She's made it an honest race. However, the pace has not been at its highest. We've just fallen below 36 kilometres per hour. I suspect when we finish, we'll be nearer the 40. There's been a few sort of animations behind, but every time anyone tries to escape from the pack, be that Spanish rider, French rider, we've seen a few attempts by them, some of those who are indeed from the lesser represented nations as well. The fire has been put out by the Netherlands. That doesn't mean to say that that is the end of duties. Absolutely not. In fact, this may well liven up quicker than perhaps you had thought. And as a result, we are seeing Norway here with Alerud and Høgset just having a little bit of drive, marked out by France. Australia have been on policing duties as well. And this is the sort of time where teams could start to mix it up a little bit, just kind of test the others out, especially some of the stronger teams like Italy, like the Netherlands, like France. If you're even slightly short-handed, then you might well be at a disadvantage. And Belgium have gone very quiet in this race. Quiet, I think, on the approach to it. Looking at Julia van der Velde here, just keeping herself safe, just backing out on this big descent here. But yeah, somebody who is could take on a day like this, and even with 3 riders, it could bizarrely act in their favour, because if you're short-handed, teams can actually start thinking, well, maybe not fully committed. I can tell you that Van Pachtenbecker will certainly be that later on for Belgium. Maybe an abundance of riches. Sometimes that causes a stall within a team because you're not quite sure where the principle lies. I think there's a bit of a settlement within the Netherlands squad. Anna van der Breggen, twice a world champion. Demi Vollering, never done it, but a bronze in a time trial at the Worlds. But let's see, Roy Jakkers, all from the Netherlands. Very strong team, and suddenly absent from the front. They've done a lot of putting out fires. I think they're fed up with it, quite frankly. Belgium, well, if Van der Velde is at the back, then Meert is here, not that far away. Van Pechtenbecker as well. So Belgium may well go loud. They'll certainly want to. They've made the trip, but only with 3 riders when they had the right to bring 8. Meanwhile, Schrempf, all on her own, is out front, and good for her, making us talk about Austria. You'd kind of think, Brian, the amount that we've mentioned, Schrempf, it was more than just one rider from Austria in this race.
Yeah, unfortunately for them, there is only one rider and only one chance of that. It was the Canadians in the red and the white that was going to lead into that. Alison Jackson was on the front there leading into the bottom of the climb, came around the corner, and then the Italians doing what they've done pretty much all, just hugging that barrier side on the right-hand sides. French have come up. I don't think for one moment that the Dutch are happy with the situation.
Nope.
They want to instigate something. They don't want to just ride on the fronts. They want to make a race of this one, and I expect them to do something very similar, because again, you know, we're coming round here, although Schrempf has lost a little bit of time. It's up towards the 3-minute mark. This first kind of part of the race has been rather slowish, and I think it, you know, for the Dutch especially, they've already shown that, you know, they want it a little bit harder.
The way that the Dutch have actually now fractured and moved back within the pack, they're sort of indicating their own isolation, I guess you might say, to the riders that are immediately shoulder to shoulder with them. I think the Dutch have got a battle plan here, and I think they're going to have some riders in a breakaway ultimately, and whether that includes the favourites, I'm not quite sure, but they've certainly decided that they're not going to waste any more time out front just holding a margin, and they've backed out of it. And other teams have kind of said, oh, what are we going to do now? Well, they've got a choice to make. They can either cohere around a drive, which seems to have happened, and it's taken the gap down to now 1 minute and 54 from around about the 3-minute marker, and other teams have had to step up. The Dutch have said, we're not doing this anymore.
I don't think it's a case of the peloton getting any faster. For me, I think it's now looking like Carina Schrempf is starting to slow a little bit now. You can see Alison Jackson, the Canadian, bouncing around at the back here, and she hit the bottom of the climb at the front. She's used this sliding room, former Paris-Roubaix winner, of course, the Canadian at the back there, but she started the climb at the front, slid back. So, you know, there's going to be a lot of this, trying to conserve energy for what's going to happen later on in this race.
A lot of Slovenian green knocking around the place, I can tell you. Just one representative for Slovenia here at these World Championships in the Women's Elite Road Race. But it's Urska Zigart, and very accomplished she is too, partner, of course, of Tadej Pogačar. But it's amazing how Slovenia is very much the forefront of the consciousness of cycling fans everywhere, including, of course, those who are at the side of the road here. Whatever gearing makes you happy. Alison Jackson spinning it up. That's a heck of a cadence to cope with this climb, Brian.
And it's just her style, really.
Yeah.
She's not really classed as a climber. Of course, a strong rider is Alison Jackson. As previously mentioned, you know, she's won Paris-Roubaix, and that's a feat in itself, but started the climb at the front, finished the climb at the back, still got the kick up towards the finishing line. I don't think she'll be a feature, but she's clearly working for someone else within that Canadian team.
Well, let's see. Always love watching the Canucks because they often punch above their weight. It should be Magdalena Valliere Is it Valliere or Valliere? I think it might be the latter. Yes, of course, suits her. She was one earlier on I was saying watch out for. Very much a dark horse within this group. Let's see. Well, they're coming home and the clock will be definitive as they cross the line. A little bit of a shimmy as they all want to have a good look at this. I think once you get over a crest, and of course our finish line is on one, there's always a chance that somebody will spring off, and so they want to mark them out, and I think that's what you're seeing right now. Norwegians, again, over towards the right-hand side of your view here, so on the left-hand side of the riders, from the rider's view, but right as you're looking at it, that distinctive blue, white and red, mostly red, of course. Ever since Anneliese Dirksen caused something of a shockwave around the world, they really start to hollow. Nations like Denmark, of course, as well as the Norse. Not many Scandinavians here, I'm afraid. Sweden, thin on the ground.
Yeah, only one rider, like the under-23 race with Söderqvist, come with one rider. There's, as we said right from the start of these World Championships, not everybody has decided to send a complete team, of course.
Well, Denmark haven't.
I know. So they have decided that, you know, they want to save their money in the federation and concentrate in something that they can do. I think it's a crying shame. I'd love to see Vingegaard here,
yeah, me too.
Especially after the win in the Vuelta. But, you know, we have to deal with the riders that we have. And, of course, many of the women are here, apart from the obvious, Lotte Kopecky, winner of this race over the last kind of couple of years. So it's a shame that she is not here, but a lot of nations decide not to send full teams.
Just looking further back, and I'm watching here Özge Ziegert. She's now moved to the centre of proceedings. She said this was all about folding in her energies as we go, Brian. You can get some surprises. Youngsters can come through and basically define their career almost. And just look at this. We've been talking about her at the back, and Ziegert, she got where she needed to be to get her bottle. She's put one in the cage. She's got one tethered in her mouth as we speak. She said in an interview, you've got to be clever on a day like this, especially if you're on your own, even more so. And she's riding clever right now. She's at the pointy end.
Yeah, you have to, especially when you're on your own. Most of the day she's been riding at the back, but that does tell me that she's got a sense that something may start to happen. It's one of these situations. There's some riders here, of course, that are sitting at the back here, not by choice. They're starting to feel the pinch. But there's some more kind of experienced riders have moved up a little bit more now, purely because they've got that feeling that something may start to happen.
Yeah, that's precisely what I was alluding to, is that you've got to be clever, especially if you're on your own, and so marking out potential moves as we approach the halfway mark of today's course. It can only get livelier. This is the Volcanoes National Park, Rwanda's northern province. The mist-shrouded peaks, of course, with iconic wildlife. And if you ever are going to come to this part of the world, then make sure you go on a gorilla trek. There we are. Sounds like fun. And here we are. Here's the time that has been taken. The 5th lap completed. Slower. Yeah, it slowed down, but I think that's because there's almost a regathering here. Everyone realizes that the racing could well be about to really kick off. Here we go. World champs from the car. And the ice balls have started to be kicked out here, Brian. We're coming up to the mid-afternoon, the hottest part of the day.
Well, that's a fortunate part of this, and you know, being the only rider in here, you have to have a minimum number of riders to have your own team car. I would assume that that's a shared team car with some other nations.
Very much so.
So she's quite lucky to have that team car here servicing her. Most of the time she's been serviced by the pit area at the side of the road, but to go around that last lap at about 33 kilometres an hour is kind of slowish, and I think there's great anticipation here. We've not kind of lost too many riders over the last few laps. It's now 74 riders in here. We've been hovering around 74, 72, 78 across the finishing line as a group, but just look at it here, it's kind of bunched up. 33, 34 kilometres an hour. You know, we expect this race to be up towards the 40 kilometres an hour mark come the finishing line. So this is suiting some, maybe not others, and there's possibly that sense that something may happen soon, and you don't really kind of want to miss out. We've mentioned Ziegard of the Slovenian team. She's now down the back again. She cannot go with everything. There's a lot of nations in here that can't go with everything because they don't have the numbers. The teams with the numbers are, you know, they've got the strength, you know, they've got multiple options, so, you know, they can afford to do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but for some, they've only got, you know, a few matches to burn.
Just look at Italy. They've been solid together throughout the entire run. I think I've admired about Italy for quite a few years. And it's something, to my mind anyways, we're just dwelling on France Prévost. They're just on the inside of Italy, and the sort of darker, almost a navy blue there. There's sort of more azzurro as it kicks off. In Spain, a couple of probes they have offered up out there, and that test is now being answered, and thank goodness, here it goes. We're kicking off as we approach the halfway mark of this race, and suddenly there's a reach out here. Fed it with the pace. Hungary want to get involved as well, one of the few solo riders, and this is great to see. Come on then, have a little bit of this. Love this. We were talking about Blanca Vas, just 23 years of age, super versatile, heavy rider, but can climb. She was fourth in Leuven recently, 10th in Glasgow, fourth in Leuven back in the day, I beg your pardon, and indeed 10th in Glasgow. She knows how to ride a Worlds. And right now, despite the fact she has youth on her side, and you think maybe paucity of experience, she's actually been at this level before. She's on her own, and she's thinking, to hell with this, I'm out of here. Yeah,
and the first riders to react there was actually Alison Jackson, the Canadian. She went from the front to the back in that previous climb there. You know, that sliding room, which we mentioned, but yeah, De Vries is the rider there from the Netherlands. But yeah, what we were saying is that sense. These slow laps, it was about time that somebody started to instigate something, and the Hungarian has. And it's another one. We've been talking about Slovenia and Ziegard. Well, Hungary have only got one chance at this as well, and, you know, a strong chance at this. And, you know, she's decided that, you know, now is the moment to try and instigate something, and let's see what develops here.
Well, they got a bit more swing than the Grimesthorpe colliery band, but I'm loving it. Vas has gone, and everybody else has to respond. And there's a whole sequence of rolling punches here, and every time you're getting some of those less numerically represented nations thinking, well, yeah, maybe now's the time. If you can form into a proper cohesive fighting force up front, and Vas has asked the questions, there's a few that have got some answers here. Don't be surprised if the United States have a dig into something like this. Someone like Ruth Edwards would be absolutely great to get up the road. Chloe Daggett, I think, will follow the favourites. But occasionally, if you've got anybody in as a support rider, it would be useful potentially to have them up the road. But you can draw strength. We said about these corners, Brian, in the introduction to the climbs, they are of importance and sometimes greater significance.
Yeah, they've been round here so many times already, but probably not at this speed. So, you know, the quicker you go into that corner, the more it kind of pushes you out. And the French rider at the front was pushed out, but just look at Blanca Vas. She looks so easy.
She's great.
Not concerned about anything, not even looking around. And as I said, another rider that has not got any teammates to consider here. She has to look after herself and try and get the best result possible.
Here's the principal teams. The Netherlands, France, Italy in the middle of that little sandwich. And guess what? Belgium also coming to join the fun. And suddenly the alarm bells are going. Germany want a part of it. Switzerland, Canada, likewise. And it's just fraying off the front now, Brian. This is what we want.
Yeah, that's what the Dutch were trying to do in the last couple of laps. Just have the race start to kind of kick off a little bit. It was a little bit too slow for them, and thankfully for them it has kicked off, and now we're into the kind of 80 odd kilometres to go. It's the catalyst is started now, so we're starting to see the race start to get faster.
Well, almost catching up with the camera bike here, just switching to the other side of the road. That's not to avoid the aero, that is simply to give herself the shortest route through here. And the chase is on behind. Vas is a proper threat here. And look what's happened to the gap now. 1 minute and 7 down to Schrempf, who's up front. And most notably, she's got a margin here of around about 10 seconds on what is a concerted chase that actually has been responded to by the peloton. That's been wound back in. Let's see how committed this is. Just clears the nasal passages. No information will be getting back to the riders as to the demeanour of Vas up front. No radios here, but just cohering as a group. They've kind of thought about the threat, thought better of it potentially, and now they are all back together. But this is a proper reach out. The gap goes to 13 seconds between Vas and the peloton. 15 now. She looks back for the first time actually, pushing into this gap, and I'm just waiting to see what the response is. Still they're thinking about it, Brian, but at least their thoughts and their plans are now becoming clear. Hard to put everything out, every fire.
Yeah, there's no real chase here. The Italians have come to the front, the French as well, a lot of dark blue, but I think they're waiting for this this golf climb to come up for some other reaction. But, one rider, I know it's Blanca Vas and a very strong rider at that, but, she's not fully committed to this one as well. She looks relaxed. She's just setting a tempo. She knows 82 kilometres to go to the finish. It's a long, long way to go on your own. Even if she catches the Austrian rider, Schrempf, it's a long, long way to go for this young 24-year-old.
Well, she double checks, and I think looking over the shoulder tells you about the commitment here. I think she possibly hoped she would draw out a response. I thought as well that we might have a lick of 6 or 7 riders that would actually just separate themselves, but too many were called back, and too many of the principal teams were involved in the reach out to try and moderate this gap. And now she knows it. She's going to be on her own, and this doesn't serve her well.
No, I don't think this was a plan, like you say. She was hoping maybe to instigate something, maybe get herself in a group, but I think too many of the stronger nations have kind of marked each other out, and she's now committed. She's not going to just kind of sit up. She's got 26 seconds, so she will want to go onto this climb, and hopefully some riders will come across there.
Her action, though, has indeed drawn the peloton closer to Schrempf, now at 1 minute and 23. And the closer they get, the more is the bait, the temptation, really, for others to push out of the pack and indeed start their own race with 82 kilometres just shy of to go.
Yeah, I don't think they were really too worried about the Austrian rider here. It was more a case of riding to what they thought was their best plan of attack to try and win the race. As a sole rider, it's 3 minutes is just not enough. You're not getting any rest whatsoever at all, and it's always was going to be very hard for Karina Schrempf to kind of stay away for too much longer as soon as they started racing from behind.
Absolutely fabulous levels of support here, and this will be helping Karina Schrempf in her effort here to stay out. It's just starting to close now between herself and Vas, who holds a 40-second margin thereabouts on the peloton, so it could become a diamond duo up front. How long Blanka Vas and Schrempf stay together, if indeed they do come together, we will find out. Just under 200 metres to go until the top of this climb. She's done a good job. Meanwhile, well, it's started to happen. Said some of the principal teams might be in favour of embedding somebody up here. This is Yara Castelline, who's gone off the front. One of the support riders. So if there is going to be a break, sometimes you have to have the forethought to be part of the early moves of it. So you're not chasing on to be involved. Just implant somebody up the road, and that's what we're seeing by some of the principal teams here.
It is, and interestingly as well, towards the front, the South African Ashley Milman-Passio as well. So a few of the riders that maybe aren't the out-and-out favourites are starting to react to this. You can see that wherever the Netherlands go, the Italians were on there, and that was Gasparini. It was up there for Italy.
This is Savarine Nyerere of Rwanda. Love their kit, by the way. Meanwhile, yeah, Vas was, I guess, the touch paper, and it started all the other rockets off. When you're looking for wisdom, Ashley Millman is certainly one of those. 38 years of age. She knows a good move when she sees it, and she is very much monitoring proceedings. Now, 2 have gone, notably Italy and the Netherlands. So this is going to be a temptation for anybody else that wants to come and join the fun. Switzerland don't want to get involved as well. There'll be a few others. Germany won't be that far behind. There's an attempt to mark out some of the strength that is now going up the road. Canada want to play the game likewise. And guess who? Slovenians Zickert not that far away from the front either. So this is getting serious. Might be mistaken with Zickert, by the way. But still, Kimberly Lecourt is very much there as well, embedded. I think that might have been the misread. Meanwhile, 41 seconds from the peloton to Schrempf with Vas in the middle. Blanka Vas, we thank her because she has animated this part of the course, and suddenly questions are being asked, and look how thin down the pack is.
Yeah, the Netherlands are starting to jab a little bit
Yep.
now. We've been trying to kind of think about it over the last couple of laps, and that was a couple of strong jabs there from them. But you saw some hands going up there from Italy. Wherever the Netherlands are going, Italy's going. Another move possibly in the left-hand side here from the Netherlands. So it does look as if they're starting to jab. They're starting to make this race harder and harder. It's just too slow for them.
Here we go. Australia as well marking out. Perakitko for Poland. Great support rider. She wanted to be part of proceedings. Not Niewiadoma, not yet anyway. And suddenly Vas is tagged, and the peloton find itself at 34 seconds, which means that we are up for grabs here. Something special is going to happen. Does she want a shower or does she want a drink? That was the big question.
Well, I don't know what's marked on it. It looks as if it wasn't water anyway, and I think that's what she was requiring.
Yeah, she wanted water, and all of a sudden she got electrolytes, and she didn't want to pour electrolytes. That can get a bit sticky, Brian.
Of course. But this race continues, and it continues to get faster and faster and harder and harder. And the Dutch doing this seems to be their tactic. Just keep on jabbing, and I don't think they're going to give up in this one, but I think wherever they're going, the Italians seem to be wanting to go with them.
Safely into the corner, Belgium. I don't know whether this is just for pickup by the pits. Is it a feed zone, this one? No, it's a straight out break for it. This is great. This is Van der Velde, I believe, that has just decided to go for it. It is. So, temptation exists. Anybody else come and join the fun? Vas has done her job. Van der Velde now takes over from the 3-rider Belgian team. She is very, very adept here. As you can see, part of a 3-rider crew. And questions being asked. Her 2 teammates, by the way, are tucked in and waiting to mark out, including Van Pechtenbecker. Well, it might not be the strongest team that have been sent here by Belgium, but they're making a noise, Brian.
Yeah, they have to. Again, it's been smart about this, and sometimes you can get carried away. This is the World Championships, of course, and you have to play the cards when you can. Not the youngest in the field at 32 years of age, but she's got plenty of experience. She was with Lotto Soudal Ladies since 2017, moved over to the rival team, AG Insurance Sudal team, and she's got a contract until 2027. But you know, she struck out for glory here with 7 to 8 kilometres to go. Everybody seems to be kind of definitely. This should be a quite quicker lap by some margin.
Well, Julie van der Velde, she's one of the most experienced climbing domestiques, as Brian has already said, within the peloton, and is kind of a long shot for a podium. I'd marked her up as. This is Schrems only 19 seconds advantage over van der Velde, but Margot van Pechtenberg, is the choice for Belgium. She didn't have a great Worlds last time. She was 80th. I think I mentioned this earlier on today. But has been very strong this season, and she's got possibly more than outsider status here. I only say that because it's Belgium, Brian, and you expect a lot from them.
Of course you do. They've always got strong riders at the World Championships. Unfortunately, it isn't here, but they've got 3 riders that want to make a of it.
Vas still almost dive bombing up the inside. Oh, Van der Velde is now coming up onto her shoulder. I know she's made the effort to get up there, but I don't think there'll be any argument about work rates here. Let's see if they cohere. But I think Schrems now, she won't be tempted to pull the pin, but if she looks back, she might be. She allows herself a glance. Is she going to stay on the wheel of Van der Velde? No, she has done her job for today, and so have some others. Support rider here, Soraya Paladin, just struggling ever so slightly. She's not alone either. Gasparini is also suffering.
Yeah, Barali towards the front, to the back as well for Italy. So just as we saw the Italians, well, they've been riding towards the front for a lot of this race, and although it's not been the fastest, it's taken its toll on some of the riders.
Certainly has. And, well, not many questions have been asked, but let's see who's got the answers to whatever is posed now, shall we? 15 seconds. Schrems just gathered herself a little bit. After being caught, just drifted to a couple of bike lengths off. Now she's back in thinking, well, I've got a great excuse here. I've done an awful lot of work today, so even if she asks me for a turn, if that elbow flicks out, I can say no. Just stay out here as long as possible. If there is a combativity award, I think Schrems going to get it.
Yeah, of course she will, but unfortunately it's not the World Championship. It's only about the medals.
Meanwhile, the sufferance goes on, and if you're suffering now, it can only get worse, Brian.
Yeah, Gonzalez here, and also the Danish rider here on her own. Anderson, another rider that hasn't got any teammates, and at least she's here riding, doing her best, but unfortunately not going to be for Denmark today. But just looking at the peloton behind, I think they're still quite happy with this situation. This has been a little bit of a faster lap, and you know, to go into this lap with 142 advantage, the sole leader of Karine Schrems has now been brought back, only by Julie van der Velde, of course, but I don't think the Dutch are over as yet. They'll still want to make this race hard.
That's a bit. I love some of the hats here. Bit of A3, Brian. Some tape. You've got a hat. Brilliant. Meanwhile, I'm given to making paper hats for myself, to be honest, because
not good in the rain.
I'm challenged with having not much of a thatch. In fact, no thatch at all. I don't go for a haircut. I go for a polish. But yeah, I need to keep the wind off and the sun off around. That will have to do. This is Gonzalez at the back. Spain have been animators, actually. They've been the ones that have been probing and prodding. But right now, just up to get around about the 30 seconds mark, and we're just coming to the top of this cobbled rise. In fact, we're still a way off. And you can see by the pace here that this is a proper course. It's been a nightmare for some, Brian. I think others would have actually been watching this on television thinking, gosh, I wish I'd gone.
I think there are a couple, yeah, 100%, but I think this was really kind of hyped up. Some riders have thought, well, this is not as bad as I thought initially it was. But then there's some other riders here thinking, wow, this is really difficult. Is this a new peloton, right?
Well, I think so. It sounded a bit like that, didn't it? I thought I'd let you enjoy him. Hyping up the crowds here. There's a fabulous atmosphere. And here we are at the essentially the Flamme Rouge. Now you see this little roller coaster you've got. That's a beautiful picture actually of just what they've got to deal with. So they get a bit of pace and you think, oh, we're only killing a bit. There's the Flamme Rouge, and then all of a sudden you've got 2 climbs to deal with before you get to the line. 2 little steps, Brian. Not kind, but wonderfully entertaining.
Yeah, it is, and you know, nice to see a lot of the kind of African flags at the side, and you know, everybody really enjoying themselves. But another reaction at front of the peloton behind from the Netherlands. They're going to keep continuing to the plan, and the plan does mean keep jabbing, because we're going to have the sucker punch near the end.
Well, 28 seconds is the margin. We'll have a definitive in a moment, and suddenly the sparks start. Australia getting involved here as well. This is fantastic. Every single time we come around, Brian, you see this urgency. It's because there's a descent off the peak once you get through the start-finish line, and it will help drive the impetus, really, of a breakaway attempt. And right now, some of the big teams want to be involved, if indeed they've been prodded by some of the smaller teams. Alarm bells going off here for Poland as well. Niewiadoma, who's been very quiet, just starting to move up around the outside. And a few other teams as well. France don't want to miss out. Germany are here as well. And suddenly, just appearing at the side by the barriers here, guess who? It's Urska Ziegert. Keeping an eye on her. I think she's going to go well. I hope she does anyway. We've given her the billing. Here it is then. Watch for the time as they cross the line here in Kigali. We're in Rwanda, of course, in Africa for the first time with the World Championships, and it is absolutely burning down right now. This is great. Suddenly we've got a proper drive. They'll come off the peak, they'll head down into the vale, and everyone getting involved. They all want to be as part of the ride. Ugset for Norway is in here. There's a few others as well. And some of the more favoured riders that we will be mentioning loud and proud a little bit later on have actually just got themselves into a proper place. Marta Lach of Poland as well. We're with the Polskis right now, just handing out bottles, maybe to other nations. Got to argue your case amongst a few teams. And still, it's Austria-Belgium with Carina Schrempf, who was up there right from the beginning, and Julie van der Velde, who has bridged over to her. In fact, the only company that she's had, and it looks like they may well have some more company because the gap is modest. This is going to be a breakdown, Brian. Can't wait.
Yeah, that was over the finishing line there. It was 14 seconds, pared back a little bit now. This Soul Chaser, it was led over by Kerbo from Franz Ruig, Niedermayer, Marcus, Malcotti, De Vries, Hansen, Lach, Chabet. So, you know, it was starting to prove, you know, that a lot of riders were really kind of interested in, you know, making this race a little bit harder now after some slower laps. But with 74 kilometres to go, we do have one rider trying to go across this gap to the 2 leaders in front.
Well, Will Corby's been in touch, known as the Caffeine Kid. He said Rwanda's coffee is 25% of their national income and has got a blackcurrant tinge to it. He says it's absolutely delicious. So, yeah, happy. Thanks, Will. I'll have a cup later. Meanwhile, the cup runneth over. Belgium might not be the most numerous, but they want to play the game. And this is the, dare I say it, the first serious roll of the dice by a team that could well be in contention a little bit later on. Van der Velde is up there, but what temptation does it offer up? The Netherlands don't want to miss out. There'll be a few other teams as well. France, Italy. When are they going to answer the question that's been posed by Van der Velde?
Well, I don't think they're too worried about Van der Velde. I think it's more of a case of, you know, the Netherlands, and this is why we're seeing Italy propped on the front now in the blue. More riders coming up for Italy. They don't want to miss out. They don't want to give the Netherlands upper hand. I said, I think a lap ago, that wherever the Netherlands go, Italy want to go with them, and you know, that's not been the case now. So I'm not going to say there's alarm bells going off at the moment, but
there is
a nice performance to come across this cap by Shirin van Androoy.
Here she is. Rui has indeed joined the fun. So now we have 3, including Schwempf, who must surely be a passenger within this group, but you just never know how deep you can dig. And we said that, of course, a particularly great example of it in the men's junior race. Head down then, hit the horizon, laps running out, 72.9 to go. Let's see what sort of fighting force this forms into, shall we?
Well, I think that was probably mentioned right at the start of this race, that to many of the kind of stronger teams, Italy and France, make sure that a Dutch rider doesn't get in the breakaway and you go with them. And so far, Italy have matched everything that the Netherlands have thrown at them. This is why they've come to the front. They do not want the Netherlands having the upper hand. It's now 28 seconds. This means that the Netherlands can just follow any moves, and you know, they've got a little bit of the upper hand now. I'm not saying it's panic, but this is why the Italians, we saw a couple of them starting to be distanced at the back on the cobbled climb up towards the finish, but this is why they've come to the front. They totally believe in Longo Borghini, but they cannot allow the Netherlands to have the upper hand here.
No, they can't. And indeed, to a certain extent, the Netherlands have already got that upper hand, especially Belgium as well, because Italy are now being forced to do the driving into this gap. Australia playing clever. They're sitting in at the moment. Likewise, France not doing too much work. Once Paladin's gone, to be honest, they've kind of run out of their helpers. Gasparini, Trinca, or Tincha, I should say. Paladin as well. They potentially are going to run out of resources as we dwell on the tea-growing regions. I could do with a cup of tea myself, quite frankly. But yeah, tea culture in this part of the world is spectacular. We've already heard about the cafe culture, likewise as well. But the tea brought in as small plants, saplings, you might say, in the 1930s, I believe. And indeed, ever since then, tea production, coffee production, we know about. Here is Pauline Farah-Prévot, just embedded at the moment as we go for a glide over the tea-growing areas, all picked by hand, almost perfect conditions here. Of course, you can find it globally. Tea productions, cha, as it is known. If you want to write the letter, the cha character in Chinese vernacular, then it is the letter T, which is where we indeed get the name from. Spectacular, all picked by hand, hyper organic, and indeed has to be dried, has to be ground, and then it's dropped in front of a fan and indeed to be sorted. Here's the grinding process going on for you right now. You see, you're getting it all here. Green and black teas available. A nice cuppa therein. Where's my biscuit? Meanwhile, have the trio up front taken the biscuit? I'm not quite sure, but and neither are Italy. They're worried. Belgium now starting to mark out any kind of moves because Julie van der Velde is up the road. We'll get a next lap time. There it is. We've trimmed getting on for 3/4 of a minute. It's going to get faster and faster. Brian, we're on a vortex.
Yeah, we are. And Van Androoy is making a difference here. You can see that the Italians are chasing at the front, and this is the first time that we've seen it. She came across this gap and is doing a lot of the work, but I have to say, Carina Schwempf, when she got caught on that cobbled climb there, like you said at the time, I didn't think she was going to react to the Belgian Van der Velde, but she has, and now she's taking turns with this group.
Amazing. Well, she was able to ride it at her own pace. She didn't have the stress of being within the pack, which can indeed weigh you down just a little bit. She also got serviced, of course, by the UCI car, so she never had to take too much from anywhere else. Called for ice, got ice. So I guess in a certain sense, especially at the pace that she was going, that would have been training ride pace for many. But the average is picking up right now. We're going to nudge back over 36 kilometres an hour, but we're going to be nudging up towards 40 before you know it. Still with just under 70 Ks remaining. 28 seconds is the gap. Italy are indeed leading everybody else at the moment. So they've taken the burden, Brian. When did they realise, like the Netherlands, that you can't do this for the entire day? Yeah, well, that's the mistake that they've done. It's the only one that they've done so far. They've been riding towards the front. They missed Shireen Van Androoy go across that gap. They should have had one rider with them. So they have to repair this damage. They don't want the Netherlands having that little bit of the upper hand, having one rider. Oh, okay, it's only 3 riders in front, and there's still a long way to go in this race, but it just means that the Dutch can just kind of mark out everybody here. I'm kind of surprised the Dutch aren't a little bit closer towards the front here. They're kind of sitting a little bit kind of further down in this group, so it just goes to show you how much Italy want this one. Yeah. And, you know, they've come up to the front because there's other teams. As I said, one of the main favourites today is Pauline Ferrand-Prévot. And, you know, the French have been riding well, but they haven't reacted to it, but the Italians have. I think the French are riding very, very cleverly. Well, having won the Women's Tour de France and Paris-Roubaix, of course, Pauline Prévot, it could be very historic for her. Can you imagine an 11-year gap between world titles? That would be something absolutely outstanding, I've got to say. This is Paladin.
To be honest, I think that it's going to be a one big surprise, or it's still kind of unknown, just because what I saw is, okay, the juniors are racing aggressively every single time. The other categories, maybe they were a little bit more chilled at the beginning of the race. I think it's because of the temperature, because of the altitude. So, yeah, I'm really curious to see, because it's like in some ways up to big teams like Holland, France and Italy to start the race. And yeah, I'm really curious. I think it's going to be, realistically speaking, all about the last 3 laps.
You have the dream, that dream of the rainbow jerseys?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, to be honest, it's been so far such a great experience just being here. So yeah, rainbow jersey would feel like definitely an unforgettable moment in my life. And
don't count her out. She's marked up as one of my 3 Uber outsiders here, and possibly deserves higher status than that. Kasia Niewiadoma. She suits this course, and don't forget, she's been on the podium before. She was bronze 4 years ago now. So yeah, that kind of wisdom with belief and not too many expectations. Sometimes operating out of the spotlight, Brian, can serve you well.
It certainly can, and I said if there's a course that kind of really suits Niewiadoma Finney, then it's definitely this. You know, she's coming into this 14th in the time trial, 5th in Stuttgart, never finished Romandy, which wasn't ideal. That was the only race, the stage race she rode after the Tour de France Femmes, and where she finished 3rd overall. She was defending that title, of course, but definitely getting looked after towards the front in the red shorts here, and definitely, you know, one of the major contenders here.
Well, look how close to the front they are right now. Niewiadoma, she's got a teammate actually doing the driving. She's sitting in about wheel 6 as we stand. Australia also want to come and join the fun. Amanda Spratt, somebody else with a great deal of wisdom, 36 years of age. And sometimes wisdom counts for an awful lot, and Australia want to animate this. They've got company with Italy and Poland, and a big reach out by some of the nations who've been quiet so far. Switzerland suddenly respond as well. The alarm bells are going off, and this is strong, Brian, strong move.
Yeah, and just look at it when we turned that corner there, when Italy were doing the ride, and you know, they only get one rider up there, France coming up, and, you know, a lot of damage has been done at the back of this group. But I tell you what, Shireen Van Androoy, she's looking super strong here. She's distanced the 2 other riders here. Really wants to put the pressure on the race.
She certainly does. Van der Velde, Van Rooij have seen off, I'm afraid, Carina Schrempf. Chapeau to her. Really, really brave ride, but I think her part out front has now come to a close because it's breaking down on the front of the peloton, and there are other teams now that want this. The Devil's distance remaining 6.6, and that always or often finds a few out, and Van der Velde's been shredded, and Van Rooij has gone up and alone off the climb here, and she might have company because there are other teams now that are starting to reach out. Alarm bells ringing, Brian. This is great.
Yeah, and when you consider, Australia coming here with a 5-rider team, and they've started to kind of kick things off. So it really is getting a little bit more animated at the front, and I think Van Rooij has decided that she's not going to hang around. She's not going to wait, for the company. She wants to make this race hard, and this is clear that when Van Rooij came across this gap, she made business, and she's still holding on to 20 seconds. She wants to give the upper hand to the team of the Netherlands.
She certainly does. Well, and it's worked because there are others trying to put the fire out there, having to be neutralised. Italy doing a lot of work. If they can't get somebody up the road, and a little bit of shoulderage as well. I'm coming through whether you like it or not, says Magdalene Valerier of Canada. Super strong rider. Certainly one to watch. Marta Lach up towards the front as well. It is starting to happen. I think we're going to see the Volcanoes National Park and the big gorilla memorial here. Not a memorial, but a gorilla statue. Yeah, silverback. I've got a silver top next to me, to be honest, in the form of Mr. Bryce Smithy. And in fact, look, it's got a microphone, just like you, Brian. Maybe not. We'll cheer him up, don't worry. Meanwhile, here is Schrempf. Well, thank you, Carina. That was a very brave ride. And look at the peloton. It is absolutely shredded.
Yeah, no, well done. It wasn't going to be the Olympic road race in Beijing all over again, although there were some similarities when she first went. But Italy really under a little bit of pressure. They rode on the front. They kind of disappeared a little bit, snatching at bottles now as they're trying to bring back Van Rooij, and they're not really making any inroads at all. I think it was the Australians that really kind of took it to them there, and I do believe it was for Australia there, Amanda Spratt that was getting a little bit animated there towards the front. But when you consider that Italy have been riding for the last few kilometres and not making any inroads at all to Van Rooij.
No, they're not. Well, here we are, the mountain gorillas in the Volcanoes National Park. These magnificent creatures have found themselves a haven and have absolutely thrived. A huge population which was diminished, but now has gone beyond stabilisation and is now, of course, starting to thrive in this protected environment. And, of course, you can visit them by, indeed, coming to Rwanda and taking a guide and heading off into the Volcanoes National Park. Absolutely exceptionally beautiful. Well, so it's been all of the racing here at the Worlds. Just something more than to ponder, but to appreciate. And, well, you take your entertainment wherever you can find it. And we've got plenty going on here, not just at the Waterhole, but, of course, elsewhere on the road. And right now, it's fantastic because Shirin Van Rooij has kicked over a hornet's nest, and here indeed come the stingers. Let's see what sort of missile can get off and up the road. We're starting to see gaps here, and everyone's now believing in this. Some riders that we haven't seen hide nor hair of suddenly appearing, Brian. It's business end of the day. Nima Fisher-Black, Ella Wiley as well for New Zealand. They also as part of this vanguard, and here we go, we're racing.
Yeah, Italy really taking this one on from the front, and they are being put under a lot of pressure now just because of this rider here, the 23-year-old Dutch rider, and she's ridden a couple of the Grand Tours this year, 11th in the the Giro d'Italia, 36 in the Tour de France. Clearly got good legs because she went across that gap very, very quickly to the leaders. Went on to the golf climb, rode away with them from them, and still 25 seconds in front of Van de Velde, the Belgian. So she's clearly
It's Bryce Smithy, if you're looking for him, B-R-I-S-M-I-T-H-Y, and we'll have your thoughts. But Van der Velde at the moment, on to the cobbles first, the cleanest entree. It won't be long before the pack comes through, and here they are, and wow, has that thinned down, probably 35 riders only, and being optimistic there, we've shred an awful lot, and there'll be more to go. This is going to get very selective, and it might be now, Brian.
Yep, Germany now coming to the front, Swiss there. Of course, now the jerseys of the Dutch. Some of the riders now trying to come back. So we did have about, 30-odd riders. We've got another group of almost 20 riders now trying to come back. But it definitely is kicking off, and this does look as if this could be the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me one little bit. Marike Meert here for Belgium. Done job in support of Julie van der Velde, but particularly Van Pechtenbecker. Margot, she is here for Belgium, and they've kept themselves very quiet. Big Belgian flags on display here, and part of that hub. This is Van der Velde, one of the animators, allowing the aforementioned Margot to keep her powder dry within this group. Van der Velde, the first of the big names, I guess you might say, to go up the road, and others just starting to find these cobbles something of a challenge. Olivier Baril is still there, but oh my life, how tough has this day been for some others. Maud Leroux for South Africa was one of those struggling. Meanwhile, Aroy is right here, looks over her shoulder. This is not the ultimate battle plan, but it's a great first marker to be thrown up the road by the Netherlands.
Oh, she's looking strong, Shireen van Androoy from the Netherlands, and just look to see where the Italians have gone. They came up in numbers towards the front. Even in the climb up by the golf course there, they brought it back to about 20-odd seconds. Okay, we had an attack from, I think it was Amanda Spratt from the Australian national team, but it's kicked back. And yeah, I think for the Italians, they were the ones that reacted first and foremost, but this gap starting to creep up a little bit. 31 seconds. Not a huge danger on her own, but now that the Netherlands have got a rider in front, all they have to do is follow.
Well, what a luxury, I think you might say, but don't sit on the cushion, as they say, because you just, quite frankly, don't know how much effort you're going to have to put in later on, but sometimes it's worth investing right now, and that's what Van Aroy is thinking. And there's a bit of a stall back here. 33 seconds is the advantage he has.
Yeah, Van Androoy doing a really good job here. I said no major reaction. One Italian rider at the front, another just starting to come up. They are a little bit kind of fits and starts, try to get organised, and then they kind of disappear a little bit, but they have shown that they don't want this situation. They don't want Van Androoy at front. Okay, she's on her own. It's very difficult when you are on your own to stay away, but she's making a good fist of this, the 23-year-old.
Certainly is. Spain, we haven't mentioned too much about, but great experience with Anne San Esteban. We also have Mavi Garcia, who's 10th in Glasgow, don't forget. Maria Benito, very much a dark horse for today, but others can shine here. Fisher Black for New Zealand in a very good position. Also looking here, Gina Kalori for Switzerland, getting herself into position. Yara Castelline, who did a lot of the early driving and moderating, now finds herself just a little bit second. And no surprise just a little bit second. Guess what? Guess what? It's a fantastic colour, the Slovenian. It's a fantastic colour, the Slovenian national that green. We've got that green bookending. We've got the green side of the front row almost. Side of the front row, of course. With of course others very much involved with us. Movement of South Africa on the other side. On the other side. Great wisdom for her and great wisdom for moderating her pace. Just moderating her pace. Just waiting to pour it on. Waiting to pour it on. Final 3 laps. So am I for the final 3 laps. Next our start finish line. Our start finish line. The time after the 8th passage. We're just about to cross it for the time, but in another lap. But in another lap, there being a very different. I see there being a very different complexion. Winnable from that.
Yeah, we haven't seen it yet. We've seen it yet. We've seen it from 36 kilometres ago in the junior race. I still think this. We heard from a couple of the riders there expecting maybe the last 3 laps. I think it's going to be the last 2 laps. I think it's going to be the last 2 laps. This is just a chase. This is just a chase. I think it's on the front for the Italians here. This is because it's in front. They don't want the Dutch to have a rider. Everybody said in the meeting this morning. In the meeting this morning, do not allow the Netherlands to get the upper hand. They could have done. They made a mistake. They could have done. They made a mistake to retrieve it now.
They certainly are. They certainly are. Right now, you're watching. Shirin and the Rui. And only 23 years of age. She was runner-up in the Droit d'Or. She was runner-up in the Droit last year. Won the Alfredo Binda a couple of years ago, and everyone won the Alfredo Binda a couple of years ago. Believe it, seniors race, and everyone went. This is a proper grown-up performance that she's producing. Believe it, seniors race right now. This is a proper grown-up performance. She's finished on the podium there. Likewise, the Het Neusplat. In fact, just off the podium, finished on the podium there. In the Vuelta Burgos last year as well. She's an extraordinarily strong rider. I mean, to have somebody like Burgos declared a support rider, just missed out. She's an extraordinarily strong rider. I mean, to have somebody like the Nationals declared a support rider, just missed out. But she is a great time trialist. And in the Nationals, when we're witness to the time trial, but she is a great time trialist. Very deep. She was up there in the mountains competition, the Tour de France. We're witnessing. Likewise, which is always somebody from a breakaway. Very deep. She was up there in the mountains she's in right now. The Tour de France. Grab a bottle if you possibly can. Always slamming into the hands here, as you can see. Everybody needing sustenance wherever they can get it in this beautiful green and verdant land. It's green, Brian, because there's a lot of rain here, but thankfully it's position she's in. A little sprinkling earlier on, but it's abated. Now, grab a bottle if you possibly can.
To bathe themselves. Well, no chance for Shirin van Anrooij today.
As you can see, everybody needing sustenance. 23:49. We're getting there, aren't we, rival?
Yeah, that's more like it now. And
it's green,
still
hanging
hanging out there.
It was thankfully it's
Trinca, Colonel, and Malcotti for the Italian team that were leading the group over the finishing line there. 44 riders for Shirin van Anrooij today.
Let's have a look at the lap time, shall we? 23:49. We're getting there on with one of the bounces that we worry about. Possibly one of the most focused turns. Thankfully, it's thinned down just a little bit. 16 seconds is a bridgeable margin, but the pack are going to come through that same corner in a few moments' time.
The finishing line there.
And then, of course, every single one of the tight corners here either introduce you to a climb, or indeed one of our fast descents, Brian. This is a pinch point, 16 seconds later. This is one of the bounces that we worry about, possibly one of the most focused turns. Thankfully, it's thinned down just a little bit. 16 seconds is a bridgeable margin, but the pack is going to come through that same corner in a few moments' time. And then, of course, every single one of the tight corners here either introduce you to a climb, or indeed one of our fast descents. I'm wondering whether Royakas,
and this is probably the easiest part of the circuit that they've got.
Taking anything away from Van der Breggen or indeed Demi Vollering.
Succession, which magnify them.
She's got to believe that she's got a big chance.
Still holding on to 14 seconds. Italy still leading the way. A depleted peloton. We started today with 44 riders left in that peloton behind.
I'm actually wondering whether Royakas is the best climber right now at the end. Every single one of these crews becomes not taking anything away from Van der Breggen or indeed Demi Vollering in terms of temptation to the specialists. she's got to believe that she's got a big
think
chance here, and she's within this pack
course
as well.
Sitting,
and your climbing ability, I think it gets magnified the
kind
more and more I see of this course, and the deeper you get into the race, especially as the pace is picking up right now at the end. Every single one of these times becomes
teammate was
nearer,
dropped not that long ago
in terms of temptation
for the USA, but you know, she's still in here. She's strong enough. This course is suiting even for the Swiss. Obviously, a rider that can climb. You know, they're still here as well. You know, they're still here in numbers. Definitely, there's a few. Look, we've not even kind of mentioned too much Chloe Dygard. You know, they're still here in numbers, and her teammate definitely have a big opportunity with Marlene the USA. But after she's still in here, she's strong enough. But even for the Swiss, pressure seems to be on the Italians. They're taking they're still here in numbers, and to bring they definitely have a big opportunity with the Marlene Russer sitting back and allowing them to do it. But they will take advantage. You know, the pressure seems to be on the Italians. So they're taking the pressure on to bring Van Roy back. Every other team, our nation is kind of sitting back and allowing them to do it. But they will take advantage.
Done a lot. Germany's starting to join the fray here. But it's not for the Netherlands to chase. It's for everybody else. Clever, Brian. The reason it's been paired back
they were riding towards the front, just keeping out of trouble. But you know, they still
done a lot. Germany's starting to join the fray.
Most of the major contenders are still in the race.
France have kept themselves very quiet. They've been clever, Brian.
Italy have now they were riding towards the front. You know, they've been just keeping out of trouble, but others will take advantage.
I would say most of the major general animators, whenever there's a point that needs to be acted upon, Spain are happy to do it. Switzerland want to get involved as well, and suddenly, well, we said maybe with 3 laps to go, next time by that will be some of the general animators, whenever there's a point that needs to be acted upon, it's already happening. Spain are happy to do it. Switzerland want to get involved as well, and suddenly, well, we said maybe with 3 laps to go, check over the shoulder here from will be the case. The 28-year-old start-finish line, but it's already happening. 3.5 laps out. The Nationals, proper animation this time by now. This one, do they mean something of a dark horse? Quick check over the shoulder here from Mariella Benito from a breakaway. But the 28-year-old, up there. There you are. Tricia, one of those who's been doing the driving. Well, clever rider. Gels for the picnic. Something of a dark horse, Benito. She's ever going to have success. It has to be from a breakaway. She's almost pedaling squares. There's a lot of fatigue starting to wash over the peloton right now, which is one of those who's been doing those about driving. 15 riders only. She's got gels for the picnic that she's going to allow herself. As we come down to this long descent, there's a little. She's almost pedaling squares. There's a lot of fatigue starting to wash over the peloton right now, which is sharp. Then we start climbing again. There's about 15 riders only. This is how this splits in half. Going to be reckoned. Now, as we come down further long descent, it's going to be a little Brian. Then we go into
I'm just looking at
more
the amount of
focused
blue
descent,
jerseys that are left,
short
because
but sharp,
that
and then we start climbing
again. For the Italian
day
team,
is going to be
brought it back
reckoned,
together, but unfortunately,
like further back, it's going to be one of attrition.
Other teams will take advantage. I'm just looking at the amount of blue jerseys that are left, because that did the Italians left maybe the Italian team maximum. Brought it back together, but unfortunately, like I said, the tide has turned a little bit for them. Even the Netherlands have taken advantage. Just talked about the Swiss team. Naomi Rook here, 2 riders riding, but they have Russer, who's on tremendous form. 3 riders maximum, but can definitely be a contender in this one. The tide has turned a little bit. Just when we saw the missed out this week, just talked about between the Netherlands and of course the Italians riding, but they have Russer, who's on tremendous form. And
well,
can definitely be a contender in this one.
She took a bronze
just when we saw the
mixed
relay battle between the Netherlands and of course the Italians.
Winning the Santos Tour down under, but normally accomplished. I mean, talk about bookending the season. She was also on the podium in the mixed Milano San Remo, don't forget. She started the season with a bang. If you ever won the Santos Tour down under, but normally mirror the way that that race the season's brilliant. So she was also on the podium. This is of course Milano San Remo, don't forget. She does a great job. And if you ever want a bitey course that could potentially mirror the way that that race indeed pans out, the most difficult part is, of course, at the pointy end. She 54.6 kilometres from home, and they're mixing it. Folding over with a bit of magic. Sarah Martin now of Spain, just getting up to the front. This will be to mark out 54.6 kilometres from home. Karen Andersson mixing it. Sweden folding over with a bit of magic. Nice Sarah Martin today of Spain, just getting up to the front. This will be to mark out anybody who's up the road a little bit earlier on. And in fact, as you look to the Netherlands of the right side as well as the road, is Royak today, number 8, bouncing at the back. Who's the best climber amongst them? She's got into helping duties the road a little bit earlier on. Out duties as well. And in fact, as you look to the Netherlands, here we go. Then 26 seconds for this leading road is Royak and Benito. Who's the best climber amongst them? She's gone into helping duties.
Well, they're giving a good go, and as you've already said, a couple of good riders here. I was just counting the riders that were left. Looked like the Netherlands had 5 riders. I did see only 2 Italian riders in there.
Given a good go, and as you've already said, a couple of good riders there. I was just counting the riders that were left. She's come to the front again. The Netherlands had 5 riders, but I did see a very small group Italian riders in there, and that was Longo Borghini and Malcotti. Although one rider has made it back. She was in the chase. She's come to the front again to try and help out. This is a very small group with now teams or nations with limited numbers now.
Seems to have you know, in the chase with a 34 second gap. I've been watching that clock.
It's the French now
spectacularly
have taken this on. I still believe that
close the gap
is the favourite for this race. They still have numbers. Just like the orange there's a lot of good riders still in the Netherlands, but the French now. I think this next climb, this on. I still believe that after the Gulf Provan could be quite significant favourite for this race.
Well, they've got to take care because there's a duo up front, not a solo. We saw going
the
from
Netherlands, but
36 kilometres.
I think this next climb,
the men's junior race, and all of a sudden
after the golf course here could be quite significant.
Sometimes you have to. Well, they've got to take care because there's a duo up front, not a solo. We saw going from 36 kilometres out in the men's junior race, and all of a sudden an offering. Well, let's see if sometimes you have to will sacrifice themselves, and it's Royak is the best climber here, who is now just starting to head off up the road, marked out by Italy. John Fritz, Switzerland are trying to be disruptors because they an offering. Of course, Royak up the road, looking further back, will sacrifice themselves, and it's Royak is the best climber here, who is now just starting to head off up the road, marked out by Italy. Switzerland are trying to be disruptors because they have Royak up the road, looking further back. Australia, they've been super clever today. Haven't really spoken about Australia too much. Amanda Cedrine, Brody Chapman, they 24-year-olds proper firepower there with good starts to waver just a little bit. It holds at 31 seconds to Switzerland, Spain up the road. Clever. And everyone else Cedrine, well, is it now? Gerbayol, is it now? The 24-year-old. Is it now? Well, she starts to waver just a little bit. It holds at 31 seconds. You've got to have an answer. Spain up the road. If indeed everyone else thinking, I've got to drive, and I think they possibly have. They certainly believe this is worth doing, Brian.
Yeah, I was interested to see that France came up to the front and started riding, and Cameroon came up and said, no, we don't ride, we try and attack.
I've got to drive.
They didn't want to do what the Italians did, because
they certainly believe this is worth doing,
what
Brian.
The Italians... Yeah, I was interested to see that I've done riding on the front, started riding, and Cameroon came up and said, no, we don't ride, so we try and attack, and 4 riders didn't want to do what the Italians did, because I know that we've got a very small group here, but the Italians, a lot of riders in here just sitting riding and waiting, and they only have 3 riders left. Stronger teams, so they've lost, beat each other up this race already. Take advantage. I know that we've got a very small group riders in front now. A lot of riders in here just sitting and waiting, and for Spain and Switzerland to be in this position. Stronger teams, because they know that they've got a representative beat each other up, and then it's up to the French, the Dutch, for the 2 riders in front now, to try and close this gap. Benito, just look at it. For Spain and Switzerland to be in this position is good, because they know that they've got a representative in the front. I don't know. And then it's up to the French,
even the
Dutch,
greats are going to find themselves
to try
asking
and close
themselves
this
some
gap, and
questions
just look at it
on the
it's
day
locked
like
down
this.
at the moment.
Roy Jakkers is still the healthiest struggle for the Netherlands riders. I don't know, especially when we get to the climbs. Even the great is almost the definition of what we have to deal with. Themselves some questions the court on the day like this. Of Roy Jakkers is still the healthiest of the Netherlands riders on the rider's demeanour, especially when we get to the climbs. And that front is almost the definition of what we have to deal with. Here is Kimberly with every single lap. Now, we thought Mauritius, potential, some thought there was potential to go from a 3 laps on the rider's demeanour, but still within that front group, which is thinning down with every single lap. Now, we thought there's a potential, some thought there was a potential to go from 3 laps out. This was never designed to be easy, the World Championships, but this one has been one of the hardest.
Yeah, I think it was already up there and was always going to be the hardest. I think the question is now, and
it's a tough day.
The 42 seconds.
It was never designed to
be
easy, the World Championships, but this one has been one of the hardest.
A little bit of concern. Yeah, I think it was already up there.
French with the first
was always going to be the hardest. I think the question is now, and said, no, we don't race. We try and. I don't think this is the winning move. Do what the Italians did. There is certainly a little bit of concern on this one, and it's just French with the first time in the black there for New Zealand. Come up and said, no, we
there's still a sizable group here.
The Dutch attack. We don't want to do what the Italians did. They were black straight on this one, and Van Anrooy was in front for the first time in the black. Now it's up to the French, and they've now committed the right towards the front here. The Dutch, well, they've not reacted too much at the moment.
Just coming up to
they were on the front when Van Anrooy was in front.
The other way, 28 down.
Now it's up to the French, and they've now committed the right towards the front now.
I said that sometimes you've got to factor in just when you can go for it. 30 seconds. Now it's going the other way. 28 down from possibly the end of her contribution. We'll see if she manages to regather herself. I said decent riders are being sometimes you've got to no shame in it because of when you can go for it of the day and the course. I think this is the very interesting to see who's struggling. Contribution. We'll see if she manages to regather herself. Some decent riders are being found out. No shame in it because of the toughness of the day and the course. That looked like a lack of cohesion. Very interesting to see who's struggling. Words have been exchanged.
Yeah, it is, and De Vries had been doing a little bit of
Fisher Black,
attacking before in the last few laps.
I'm going to go and try and join the party up front, and if others come and join me, some words have been exchanged.
Yeah, Niam Fisher Black, very good rider, the Kiwi rider. The Fisher Black riders here.
And said, I'm
just a little bit surprised that the Dutch team here, they do have numbers.
And
if others come and join me, to this one, I thought Niam Fisher Black wait a little bit longer and then try to do it, but you have to be in the race to have that feeling. And the Dutch team here, Switzerland and the French trying to come across to this one, I thought, and then they kind of staring out between the French, wait a little bit longer, the Italians trying to do it, but you have to be in the race to have that feeling. But seeing definitely heating up 50 kilometres to go down the road, 2 riders in front, and then only kind of staring out between the French,
big close down,
the Italians,
another of these pesky corners, a little bit of dampness here as well. Looks like we've had a shower through.
Definitely heating up 50 kilometres to go, and 2 riders in front, only 23 seconds.
This pair to big close downs, another of these pesky corners, a little bit of dampness here as well. Looks like we've had a shower through just on this part of the course. Most effective. Mario Benito asking a couple of questions of Roy a few moments ago. Kind of bury the hatchet, maybe Roy because is clearly choosing the excuse of not being the battle plan. Most effective. Mario Benito is indeed the Swiss choice, but Roy a few moments ago. Chabet as well. Maybe Roy possible for a top 10. Oyster is choosing the excuse of not being the battle plan as well. I haven't seen her for a while, so I'm assuming the Swiss choice, but the excuse that Roy is using as well, I think, not possible for a top 10. Oyster is she. Time trialist is part of this group as well. In fact, I haven't seen her for a while, so I'm assuming that Chabet is the excuse that Roy is using. Switzerland, I've got to say, and to dig. That's a nation that she remained a little bit quiet so far. 22 seconds here as well. Holding station out front, it was up to 40 seconds. Not quite there. Plenty of options for Switzerland, I've got to say. And in fact, that's a nation that this group of riders, and we start to 22 seconds to ponder. Holding station out front, it was up to 40 seconds. Strongly represented, albeit disparate and sort of spread around this front group. We look down at this group of riders and we start to
Yeah, I'm not too sure if it's a drive or not.
As well.
It's going to
strongly
bunch up
represented,
at the back here,
albeit disparate and sort of
maybe
spread around this front group.
Still numbers here
and
of
Australia
the Dutch, and
now
I think it's
taking on the drive.
It's up to them, possibly in the French.
Yeah, I'm not too sure
We
if it's
seem
a
to have
drive or
numbers,
not.
but, it's going to bunch up.
Yeah,
at
let's
the
see how
back
this
here.
develops, but definitely
Naomi Rook
still
and
numbers here
Benito
of the Dutch,
doing a good job
I
at the
think
front,
it's
just kind of hanging out there.
It's up to them,
possibly in the French
this
as well.
race
We
definitely
seem to have
not
numbers,
over
but
for the moment anyway. 48 kilometres.
yeah, let's see how this develops, but definitely
Naomi Rook and Benito.
That's when we'll start to see
job at the front,
just kind of the real battle commence.
I think this race definitely
not
over for the moment anyway. 48 kilometres to go. When we come up to the finishing line, there'll be 3 laps to go, and I think that's when we'll start to see the real battle commence.
This lap was in a short one of the highest speed barriers waiting to welcome you, deliberately going wide. The average there was Benito to force Rook to get through and do some work. A new definitive as to how quick this work was in a short while. Within the barriers, waiting to welcome you, deliberately going wide. Who's strong there was Benito somebody with an excuse to come through and do some work.
Tiredness comes into play as well,
and work.
This distance out as well.
Within
like
the
you say,
only
2
always
riders.
Difficult when there's 2 of you, Brian. There's always going to be somebody who's stronger.
As you said, the Hungarian Bass, who's on the attack, she comes into that corner and comes into play as well. But this will be testing now because as well. We may see, like you say, only 2 riders climb this time. Let's see. Well, as you said, the Hungarian Bass, who's on the attack, she comes into that corner in third place. But this will be testing now because I think we may see a reaction on this cobbled climb this time.
Well, we had a shrimp up the road. What about Sprat? Loretta Hansen is there. Can't wait for Australia. They're spread wide across the road. It looks like mark-out time still. Given what Spain have done so many times. We had a shrimp up the road. They do it on the track as well, I've got to say. They're quite happy on some of the points races, for example. Wide across the road, it looks like mark-out in a velodrome, and sometimes, given what Spain have done so many times, they do it on the mentality of Spain. They just love getting involved. They're quite happy on some of the points races, for example. But just leave the pack behind in a velodrome, and sometimes. It seems to be that's the
you can see the Swiss
mentality of Spain. They just love getting involved in the action. They've got a rider up front, of course, in Benito.
Yeah, and the Italians, they have these championships as well. Now that they've plated in
with that battle plan.
Yeah, you can see the Swiss in the left-hand side. They're quite towards the front of this situation. I really expected to see something a little bit more from the Dutch riders. They have been doing a lot of riding. Now that they've plated in numbers. Lockdown for the moment, but it's only 30 seconds. Germans are up towards
what about Germany?
I really expected to see something a little bit more from
on 2 occasions. Niedermeyer as well went strongly in Glasgow.
Lockdown for the moment, but it's only 30 seconds.
She was part of Germany breakaway plans for Germany at the beginning of this one. On 2 occasions, Niedermeyer as well still went strongly in Glasgow. Just looking at the change, very animated. Was part of, I think, breakaway plans for Germany at the beginning of this one.
Yeah, a couple of times, but different contrasting styles there.
Reveal itself.
With Benito pedalling with a higher cadence and Naomi Roy going with a little bit more of a kind of powerful display. Yeah, a couple of times, but different contrasting styles there. With Benito pedalling with a higher cadence and Naomi Roy going with a little bit more of a kind of powerful display
at the back on the climb here, after having done a lot of for the Netherlands there in the bright orange number 8, having done a lot of work earlier on. That's Hong Kong's Wing Young Roy Yakin. At the back brilliant work here after having done a lot of for the Netherlands there in the bright orange number 8. Still part of the front group. A lot of work
just going to hang on the back.
That's Hong Kong's Wing
I thought it would be maybe the Netherlands, but it's now the
brilliant
French. So we've seen
Hong Kong.
The previous laps had been kind of dominated by the Italians. They missed out. Just going to hang on the back. Something had to change here, and now I thought it would be maybe the Netherlands, but it's now in France. It's now so we've seen France that have decided that they want to take this race on. They do have numbers in the Italians. They missed out. The Italians fell foul. France have only got 3 at the moment. They're switching to chase Spain in France. It's now. You can see the contrast team of France that have decided that they want to take this race on. They do have numbers in this group.
But the Italians fell foul and have only got 3 at the moment in this kind of chase group.
Between
you can see the contrast in style here
look
between Benito and
all of the motorcycles actually trapped within the gap here. That's 27 seconds. A bit more upright. Roy clear that. They will do it in a short while. They're just round and give themselves a sight of the Flamme Rouge. All of the motorcycles up ahead. We've got sunshine where we are, rain in the region. Clear that, and they will do it in a short while. The peloton with the peloton wrap from the finish line. A sight of the Flamme Rouge and storm clouds up ahead. We've got sunshine where we are, rain in the region. And here comes the peloton with the peloton wrap from the finish line. Love the atmosphere here. It's one of the fan zones, as you can hear. There's a big screen behind them as well. There's the Flamme Rouge, a little bit of respite, and they have to pick it up and start digging in once again. And love the atmosphere here. It's one of the fan zones. Sort of roller coaster series of humps just as well. The Flamme Rouge, which introduces Flamme Rouge, a little bit of respite, dishes, pick it up and start digging in and back out of them. 25 seconds is the gap roller coaster series of humps just over 45 kilometres from home. To a sequence of little dishes that they have to deal with. 3 laps to go into and back out of them.
Yeah, I still think it'll be another lap before we see the real contenders
just over 45 kilometres from home.
But it's definitely kind of warming up a lot.
3 laps to go, Mark.
Yeah, I still think it'll be another lap before we see the real contenders start to kind of feature towards the front. Yeah, if you're getting distance now, it's going to be definitely kind of warming up a lot to the front of the race, because the race is definitely on the chase down for these 2 riders here. You can clearly see that Ruig is the stronger rider at the front. Yeah, if you're getting distance now, it's going to be very difficult. They're closing this gap behind the race, because of course the Swiss are happy with the situation. The chase down for these 2 riders here. You can clearly see that Ruig is the stronger rider at the front to go. Peloton are coming. They're closing this gap behind. Of course, the Swiss are happy with the situation, and they're trying to kind of block things down at the back.
We still have an none too small matter.
Coming across the line, 3 laps to go. Starting to hot up.
An hour and a half of racing left. 3 hours and 23 minutes. Somebody's going to get banned. We still have a none too small matter of 45 kilometres to go. We've got about an hour and a half of racing left. Kept herself, and they better spaced herself brilliantly. She spoke to us at the beginning of the day and said that's precisely what you have to do, especially if you're on your own. Well, she's got company now in Ashley Moolman from South Africa, the veteran, 38 years of age, so it's a green front to the chase. She spoke to us at the beginning of the day and said that's precisely what you have to do, especially if you're on your own. Well, she's got company now in Ashley Moolman from South Africa, the veteran, 38 years of age, so it's a green front to the chase at the moment. What experience is that? Top 20 on every single occasion.
Just looking to see
in the world, and that's been numerous.
34 riders in this main peloton now. 15.
Wow.
Still a lot of riders that we haven't kind of really mentioned, just sitting there patiently just waiting to see this race to unfold. Now 34 riders looking down the line there with this main peloton now. Sigurd, Marcus, still a lot of riders that we haven't kind of really mentioned, just sitting there patiently waiting for this race to unfold. Garcia down the line there, we've got Longosley, Millman, Sigurd, Marcus, Lippert, Schillery, all the major contenders are still in this main group.
Well, starting to kick off, and Australia decide to leave the party quite fast. We did say
they're all the major contenders are still in this main group.
Let's wait and see. Well, Uvedoma as well, kind of lurking at the front, waiting to go, and here go the markouts. This wouldn't surprise me if it's Saruya, we did say. Let's see in a few months' time, she was just hanging off the back of the big one. Let's wait and see. And Uvedoma as well, kind of lurking at the front, waiting to go, and here go the markouts. All together, but Amanda Spratt on the attack. In a few moments' time, she was just hanging off the back. A couple of podiums in the World's 2018, 2019 as well, so there's been a bit of a gap. Still very much veteran status now, 36 years of age, but sometimes Amanda Spratt on the attack. A circuit such as this is a couple of podiums for a big percentage of your potential 2018, 2019 as well, so there's been a bit of a gap. Veteran status now, 36 years of age, but sometimes
races already.
A circuit such as this, wisdom counts for a big percentage of your potential success.
Most people, and I tell you what, this couple of times today, this is probably the easiest part of the course. I've seen it in a couple of races already. Everybody's thinking, right, this is time where I can relax a little bit. Possession of the course to go on the attack. Most people try and gain a little bit of time. A couple of times today, this is probably the easiest part of the course.
Do you know the great Terry Reimer, who was
this is time where I can relax a little bit. Sometimes that's a good time to go on the attack and try and gain a little bit of time. And this is what Amanda Spratt.
Just keep winning. Do you know the great Terry Reimer, who was easy bits won the Ball d'Or, and that should be a T-shirt. Easy bits hard. Said to him, and switch on by making.
No, exactly. It's a little bit.
And that is
Amanda Spratt
should be a
said,
T-shirt.
no, you're not relaxing, and that was the fastest lap of the race so far.
Gain the success. There we go. When everyone else has switched off, make the easy bits hard.
Yes, no, exactly. Everybody's thinking, well, I can relax a little bit. Amanda Spratt decided, no, you're not relaxing, and that was the fastest lap of the race so far.
Responding. Switzerland, there we go. Make the easy bits hard. Still look strong. And they've been there when exactly that, but demanded answers from those to whom she is very, very strong way to be. At the moment, it's France that's responding. Switzerland here, and Ferrand-Prévot still looks strong. There she is, number 25, there with possibly the neatest look to her as well. Looks unhurried, very strong way today. Here she is.
Well, this is the way to ride. Just relax. Don't get involved. And I think for Pauline Ferrand-Prévot, it will be a last lapper. I think that's what we should be counting on. That, and of course, the onus is in them a little bit. That's why they're starting to ride on the front.
Looking further back here, well, she had a long chat there with Juliette. There she is, number 25, with so she will be the neatest look to her as well. Looks unhurried for Pauline Ferrand-Prévot. So whatever their plan is, you can see that it's going to be a Labousse leading in Ferrand-Prévot, you can be sure of. Kerbayol was a great time trialist, as you well know, and that's a very strange thing to do. Also be somebody who will set the pace.
This is the way to ride. Just relax.
Before Labousse goes on the climb, possibly the final time of asking, as Brian said.
Ferrand-Prévot, it will be a last lap.
Ferrand-Prévot,
I think that's what we should be counting on. That
is that what your crystal ball is telling you, Brian?
And of course, it does look as if patience a little bit. That's why they're starting to ride on the front. But it really depends on what unfolds. I do believe that winning